Hi, everyone. Welcome to another segment of My Child, My Voice Kid Connection show. I am so excited everybody's here today. My name is Miss Wendy. This show is powered by the National Parents Union. I am so excited to talk about our story of the day, which is our book of the day, The Secret Engineer, How Emily Roebling Built the Brooklyn Bridge. And the author is Rachel Daugherty. And I'm so excited to talk about this because this month we are celebrating the International Women's History Month. So this is so great to read about because not everybody knows about the Brooklyn Bridge. And I'm so excited to hear about it because of what she did to make this happen. And our craft for the day is going to build a Brooklyn Bridge STEM craft, is what we call it. Now, I don't have this in front of me, but we're gonna walk this through and how to build your own Brooklyn Bridge and how to do just like Emily did in the book. So how she created this bridge. So let me go ahead and start story time. I'm going to disappear for a little bit and start the reading. So the book is called The Secret Engineer, How Emily Roebling Built the Brooklyn Bridge by Rachel Daugherty. Look at these plans. This is what we call a blueprint. This is something that she designed, and you actually see the pictures here of the real Brooklyn Bridge back in the day. How exciting. Emily Warren was a bright, shiny spark who loved to learn. Like many girls, she studied sewing and piano. Unlike many girls, she also studied math and science. In time, she married a spry young engineer named Washington Roebling, whose mind was just as hungry as hers. The Roebling family built bridges. Washington's father, John A. Roebling, was considered one of the greatest engineers of his time, and now he had a risky new idea. He told Washington and Emily he had designed a bridge to span the quick, whirling waters of the East River and to finally link Manhattan and Brooklyn. He planned to build two colossal towers and sling a 14,000-foot web of steel cable between them to create the greatest avenue the world has ever seen. John wanted to see his son to Europe to learn about new technology for building bridges. Emily insisted she would accompany him. In Europe, Emily and Washington explore historic towns, tasted new foods, and studied the most recent advance in bridge building called the Calasan. And that's where you see him in. A calasan is a giant open box turned upside down and sunk into the water. The opening at the bottom traps air as the box sinks, so it's dry inside. This allows workers to dig deep into the riverbed to find solid rocks to build upon. These calasans, once fixed to the firm bedrock, form a sturdy base for the bridge tower, strong enough to support the structure's weight. Emily and Washington hurried back to New York, buzzing with discovery. John wove two calasans into his design and prepared to build the Great Bridge. But he died before construction began in 1870. Washington would have to take over as chief engineer. The calasans were larger than ever made. The base of each one measured about 17,000 square feet. Just building them seemed nearly impossible, and that was only the beginning. And you can see at the bottom the step 1, 2, 3, and 4, how they did that. Washington soon discovered that the construction inside the calasans was muddy, dark, and sweltering. After hours in the calasan every day, he returned home aching and dizzy, but he pressed on. Washington drew plans late into the night with Emily by his side. Emily heard that some of the workers were falling ill with pains, weakness, and nausea. They called it the Calisson sickness. Then in 1872, Washington, like many of his workers, collapsed on the deck, and he had to be ferried back home to Brooklyn. And you see some more of the build of the Calissons here and the different steps. Weeks later, Washington still couldn't get out of bed. Emily insisted she be the eyes and ears and legs and arms. As Washington's eyesight dimmed from the Calisson sickness, he dictated instructional letters to Emily, and she read construction reports to him. Washington could breathe a little easier knowing Emily would be at the work site. Look at them thinking and they complain. Look at that design they're coming up with together. But Washington's words felt like clunky and confusing when Emily repeated them to the engineers. She faithfully copied the terms and equations, but they seemed like a foreign language. She was nervous. Construction on the bridge was only just beginning, and there was so much she didn't know. All these words that she's looking at. Compression, tension. So Emily started to read. She studied bridge engineering and learned from Washington and the assistant engineers. As she studied, the mechanics of the bridge became clearer. The main parts of the bridge were the towers, the cables, the decks, and the anchorage blocks, which you can see in the design. One set of cables would be strung between the tops of the tower. They would balance the pulls of other cables. They would lead from the towers to the anchorage blocks at either end of the bridge. The cables created the tension force, and the towers created the compression force. A force is an invisible push or pull that acts as an object, and together, these opposite forces would hold the deck upright. The more Emily learned, the more confident she felt. As time went on, she could see the drawings come to life. She saw the steel cables swooping between the towers, and what she learned would be called the catenary curve. The perfect natural art of cable held only at its ends, like a clothesline or a jump rope. She saw the tiny link sketches that she squinted on a paper transformed into huge vertical cables called suspenders, which would shift the weight of the bridge deck to the main cables. She grinned, knowing that each suspender could hold 70 tons. Emily learned that the Roebling design for the bridge required a new method of steel workers that had never been used before. The cables were spun from thousands of thin steel wires twisted together like invisible yarn. The ridge deck platform was steadied with steel stays, cables that were stripped down diagonally from the towers like the sunbeam. With the towers and the deck, each diagonal line formed a triangle, the very strongest shapes. And there we go, we learned about stays. No steel mill had ever been asked to make steel cables like these before, and the manufacturers wanted to meet with Washington to make sure they understood the plans. But Washington fretted. If word got out about how sick he was and that a woman was in charge, the project would surely be taken away from the Roeblings despite all their work. Emily understood his concerns, but she insisted she would handle it. And when the meeting came, she answered all their questions perfectly. More than 10 years had passed since Emily had taken the reins, and the bridge was nearly built. She saw the main cable stretching across the wide river. From her window, they looked as delicate as a spider silk, but she thought proudly of the equations she studied to calculate the cable's strength. But just before the bridge was set to open, the public, which had never seen a bridge this large, began to worry. The skinny wires looks too weak, they said. The river is too wide, they said. Everyone would fall into the water and drown. Look at all them. Beware, beware of the bridge. Wobbly wires. Oh no. Emily insisted they were wrong. She trusted the thickness and strength of the steel cables, the stability of the diagonal stays, and the balance of the anchorage blocks against the towers. She knew the equation by heart. A week before a grand opening, Emily rode in an open carriage on the first trip across the finished bridge. She carried a rooster in her lap as a symbol of victory. When the Brooklyn Bridge opened on May 24th, 1883, the two cities set off rockets and fireworks. Bands played from steamboats below all night long. Crowds gathered on both riverbanks, on the boats in between, to celebrate the great feat of engineering, never even knowing about the contribution of an insistent woman named Emily Roebling. And so that is the end of our story time. And in the back of the book, what I love about the book is you can read the author's notes, more about Emily, the glossary of words that we learned in this book. It is so interesting to read about Miss Emily Roebling. And wasn't that neat? We learned about the secret engineering. I learned so many new words today. And you get to see, and this is the pictures of it today. You see the drawings, the blueprints on the bottom, and now you see the pictures of the Brooklyn Bridge. So, students, I should say kids, you are an engineer, and this is what we're going to be planning on for our craft today. I want you to imagine you are the engineer instead of Emily, working on the Brooklyn Bridge. Part of your job involves designing models of the bridge. Your challenge is to design a model of the Brooklyn Bridge that can hold the most vehicles without collapsing. Now remember, to design your bridge, you can use the materials I'm about to tell you. Your model must include anchorage blocks, like we heard in the book, made out of containers of simple as Play-Doh and straws, and a deck made out of clothespins and popsicle sticks. You may not remove the Play-Doh from the container, so that's one thing I want you to remember. So take the time to plan and then create. And then what you want to do is after you create it, you're going to do the experiment. And from your experiment, you're going to improve it if needed. So let me come back and let's start. I'm going to stop sharing. Hi, I'm back. I'm going to stop sharing, and what I'm going to show you is simple things and materials you need for your Brooklyn Bridge project. Clothespins, simple, easy clothespins. If you have colored ones, plain ones, I would say 8 clothespins is what you're going to need. So I have all my clothespins. I'm going to put this on here. Now, another thing that we want to use is popsicle sticks. Now, you can get regular popsicle sticks. I'm trying to get mine together. But I have colored ones. I have to be different. So if you have colored ones or if you have plain ones, whatever you have at home, use them. Now, I'm using the jumbo ones, not the skinnier ones, the regular ones, let's say. The jumbo ones are wider, so if I want my cars to be on the bridge, I need to make them wider. So that's why I decided to use the jumbo ones. And that one you need about maybe 10 to 12 popsicle sticks. Remember, this is an experiment. What else you're going to need is 4 straws. So I have 4 plain straws. Whatever straws you have at home. See, mine happen to have the little things here, but this is what I have at home. Then you're going to need Play-Doh. Doesn't matter what size, what color, any Play-Doh will do because these are going to be your anchorage. Now, I am going to move my materials to across. Now remember, you're going to sit here and create. You're going to plan, how am I going to do my Brooklyn Bridge? I gotta bend down just for a second. And I'm gonna move my camera so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So we want to take the anchorage. So that's the Play-Doh. And so what you want to do with the Play-Doh is, I'm going to open it up. Of course, whatever color. Of course, mine are vibrant colors. I got purple, orange. They don't have to be the same color. They can be different colors. And if you have the smaller ones, fine. I think these are a good size. They're big enough. Remember, we've heard about the anchorage. The calisons were deep and long and wide. So this is why I'm using these Play-Dohs. So what I want to do is get my straws. Now I'm giving you an example of how to do your experiment. You're going to have to decide what works and doesn't work. So I'm going to put my straw as far into the Play-Doh, but I want to make it wide enough because I don't want to have them too close, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm making a bridge. If I have it too close, I don't think it'll work. And I'm going to take my other two straws and I'm going to do the same on the other side. This is so simple and easy and so fun. So make sure you grab your mom, your dad, whoever the adult in your family is, or your friends at school or your neighbor, and do this experiment together. Now, this is where clothespins come in handy. I'm going to put all my clothespins here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Now, my straws have the bendy, where they bend, and I feel like that's the weak part of my straw. So what I want to do is actually, I'm thinking just like Emily, I got to think what's strong, what can hold. I don't want anything to fall apart. So I'm going to take my clothespin and put it right where it bends. Now this is for my straw. If your straw is a regular straw, you're good. And that's what I'm doing on there. And then what I decided to do is I'm going to clip it there, clip it here. Now I'm going to do the distance apart. I'm going to keep going. You're probably going, oh my goodness, how is this going to be sturdy? And I'm trying to clip it to where it's even. And I know it doesn't look that way right now. And then I'm going to clip this side. Same way. And you're probably thinking, how is she going to put this thing together? So now I have the anchorage here and here on both sides. But what I'm seeing is, how am I going to sturdy my bridge? So what I decided to do is do this. And I'll explain what I'm doing there. I'm clipping this that direction. I'm taking this one and I'm facing it that direction. And you're going, what? So I have two of my clothespin going to the left, two clothespin going to the right. And what I did is I put that like this, and you're going, how is this bridge going to be sturdy if the middle is not secure? Like, see, my hand is actually holding the bridge. Well, this is where you can be creative. Do you want to get glue and glue these two together? You can do that. Or do you want to use something else that would hold more sturdy? You're going to have to experiment and see how that works. I'm going to move my... So that kind of gives you an idea. This is how it looks, and this is how you're going to experiment. Now I'm going to put this aside because I kind of built one halfway done. I have to be careful so I don't. Let me move my... And this is what I did. I moved, so I decided to secure my bridge with rubber bands. I remember I showed you in the middle, it was weak and it would fall apart. So I used rubber band to secure it, but I decided to secure on both sides. Now I'm still experimenting. That means it could work, it may not work, but I'm still learning this. Now, this is where your popsicle sticks come in. Now you're going to glue these, but you're experimenting right now. I want to place these to see how well it sits on top of my bridge. And I'm going and I'm putting, how colorful bridge do I have? And I'm putting my popsicle sticks. Now I'll probably have to move them. And I'm keep going until I finish. Now I may not need all of them, but we want to get as close as we can. Remember, cars are going to be on here. Do I want a last one? Maybe not. See, I only use that many. Now, I do have another one, but I don't have it with me, to where I glued all of my pops. So once I felt that this was secure, I glued my popsicle sticks to the clothespins so that it wouldn't move. But I'm just showing you right now what that means. And you can use any glue, hot glue gun, you can use tacky glue, Elmer's glue, whatever glue you have at home. And the experiment is how, if my cars, and I can, of course I got NASCARs here. I'm in Texas. And I want to see how well it does. Now I still see that it kind of bends this way. So I'm going to have to redo my experiment to make sure it doesn't go like this, but goes like this. So like I said, it's a fun experiment. And then try to put as many cars. So the idea is to see is how many cars that you can get on your bridge. And you want to make it sturdy so where it drives by, it goes that fast, just like Emily Roebling did. And now we built a Brooklyn bridge. I hope you had a lot of fun today experimenting with this. This is more thinking like an engineer and how to build things. And if you want more ideas, make sure you check out the book. You can watch this show again and read more about Emily and how she built, her bridge. And I hope that you have fun with whoever you're with to do this little experiment. And like I said, you might have to do it more than once, but this is so fun to do. And then you can say that you are an engineer just like Emily. And for you, there we go. There is our bridge itself. I can't say it's too sturdy because I didn't glue it, but thank you for watching the My Child, My Voice Kid Konnection, powered by the National Parents Union. My name is Miss Wendy, and thank you so much for joining us in our activity and story time. Make sure you catch us next Monday for another exciting story time and activity. Everybody have a great day. And if you want to send me pictures, make sure you send me pictures at Wendy at npunion.org. And I would love to see how you created your Brooklyn Bridge. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.